Brussels rarely trembles. Today, it does. Behind the glass facade of the European Commission, the bureaucratic engine of a continent, stands the office of a president whose every decision is scrutinized, contested, magnified. She is for some the steely emblem of European unity, for others the face of an institution that has forgotten how to speak plainly. And on the square outside, amid flags and chants demanding a ceasefire in Gaza, a new narrative takes shape, that the administrative heart of Europe is more vulnerable than it admits. But accusation is not evidence. So we rewind. The Commission is no ceremonial organ. It drafts laws, polices budgets, negotiates on behalf of 450 million people. When critics claim its leadership is compromised, they aren't taking a swing at Brussels theater, they're pointing at the machinery that turns European politics. In 2025, that machinery shuddered. 2 no-confidence motions, one from the right, one from the left, hit the parliament in the same week. Their grievances were different. US-EU trade tensions on one flank, anger over Gaza policy on the other, but symbolically they converged. Dissatisfaction came from opposite ideological poles, suggesting that the Commission's center of gravity was slipping. The motions ultimately failed decisively. Yet the spectacle was unmistakably rare. Europe's political extremes reaching for the same trigger. If that were the only plotline, Brussels could breathe. But it wasn't. The more combustible thread came from the courts. In May 2025, Europe's top judges ruled that the Commission had acted unlawfully by refusing to release text messages between its president and Pfizer's CEO during COVID-19 vaccine negotiations. The ruling didn't allege corruption, it alleged opacity, an institutional sin that, in the public imagination, rhymes dangerously with something darker. In a city where lobbying is a profession and revolving door a vocabulary term, the idea of crucial negotiations happening by text off the record struck a nerve. Meanwhile, prosecutors at the European Public Prosecutor's Office confirmed a still active investigation into the EU's vaccine procurement. They named no individuals and disclosed no targets, but the confirmation alone poured fuel on the narrative that something behind the curtain was being examined slowly, methodically, and in silence. Silence, however, is a political vacuum, and vacuums attract noise. In April 2024, a Brussels security summit was shaken when a protester and separately Irish journalist David Cronin interrupted a keynote speech by the Commission president, denouncing her over Gaza. The interruption ricocheted across social media. A leader pausing mid-sentence, security lunging forward, the audience frozen. Clips like that don't end debates, they inflame them. They fuse with headlines about vaccine texts and parliamentary rebellions, creating an atmosphere in which critique felt omnipresent, an ambience more than a verdict. Complicating the moral chessboard further, reports emerged simultaneously of a suspected Hungarian-linked intelligence network operating in Brussels. Allegedly seeking sensitive information, Budapest denied everything. But the revelation mattered because it reframed the entire stage. The whistleblowers calling for transparency were themselves under scrutiny. In EU politics, credibility is a currency constantly earned, constantly spent, never guaranteed. And all this unfolded as the Commission prepared a record-sized budget proposal, nearly €2 trillion for 2034, a figure that triggered resistance from national governments already battling deficits and domestic unrest. A union preparing for a surge in defense spending was simultaneously being asked whether it knew how to spend transparently at all. Zoom out, and a meta-story emerges. The pandemic forced the EU to negotiate contracts at unprecedented speed and scale, with billions of euros and millions of doses at stake. In crises, process bends. But when the crisis fades, shadows left by rushed decisions lengthen. The court's ruling on text messages set a precedent with teeth. If communication shapes public business, it belongs in the archive, not in a private device. That principle now hangs over Brussels, like a verdict still being written. The Commission survived its parliamentary challenges. It absorbed a legal defeat on transparency. It continues to face a live prosecutorial probe. It operates amid protests, virality, and counter-allegations between member states. None of this proves systemic wrongdoing. All of it proves systemic pressure. The ending, some want handcuffs or vindication, is not on the table. Not yet. What exists is a test. Govern big and open the curtains. Show the messages that guided billion-euro decisions. Show the processes that shaped contracts. Show the methods used in the public's name. Because in the EU's age of theatrical politics, survival is no longer enough. Survival without transparency becomes another reason for suspicion. And suspicion, left unanswered, becomes a story that writes itself. For now, the fairest verdict is the only honest one. Unproven, but more exposed than yesterday. And that is where the chapter ends, on the brink, under glare, awaiting daylight.